All right, Taylor, this is all about you. I want to hear it straight from you. I want to talk a lot about your story about how you got to where you are today. But I think first things first, introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about what you're doing today.
Yeah, my name is Taylor King. I am a Praxis alumni, and I currently run my own video production company out of Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize you were in New York. So how'd you get to kind of where you are running your own business? Is that something you always knew you wanted to do? Is that something that, is a recent thing? Um, you know, we, how long ago did you start it? All of those nitty gritty questions.
Yeah. It's funny. I did have a faint inkling as a kid. I was always into tech stuff, and I didn't quite realize how much kind of technology and computers and all that kind of stuff overlapped with video until way later. But I started a tech support business when I was like 16 or 15 or something. And funny enough, I had actually just met Isaac around that time. We had crossed paths briefly, and he kind of planted the seed for Praxis, but also gave me some very legitimate advice that is a big part of the Praxis curriculum, which was a lot about building a brand, building the whole key piece of building a website. That is what he told me to do, and that's what I did. And all of these things that I later realized were a big part of the curriculum and more as I became a member of the program. I was kind of getting a piece of from very early on. And so I started this tech support business. It was called AppleEasy because I made Apple
Easy.
easy. Yeah.
I love it.
That was genius for 15-year-old Taylor. And yeah, and so I kind of had that inkling, and I loved that. And I loved being responsible for everything myself. And the kicker was I figured out that people were paying like 80 to like $150 an hour for tech support, because usually it took an hour. So an adult who has a full-time salary is going to think $80 to fix all my problems. Like, yeah, that's amazing. Now, what they didn't realize is that to a kid who's 15, that's a lot of money. And the market had a lot of people who were like, kind of running full-time businesses and were a little bit older or doing it on the side. And here is like this kid who's super knowledgeable. And my parents started like shopping me out for free before I started charging. And they
You
were
got to
like,
start
hey,
earning your keep.
right. Because they saw me like forcibly fixing all the things in the house. I'm like, the Wi-Fi sucks. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. So they're like, oh, why don't you just go do it for so-and-so and Miss So-and-so. I started doing it. And then I was like, wait a minute, hold on. And I started doing some research, and I was like, this could be like a thing. And so then when I kind of a year or so later, when I kind of got my car and started that whole thing, I was like, this is my business. Started doing driving, like driving people's houses, just fixing all the stuff. And I walk out of there like $200, feeling like I just like struck the lottery, right?
Yeah,
And I
that's
would do
huge.
that.
That's huge at that age.
Yeah. So that was kind of, in short, was my first business experience. And I was like, I love that. I love all of that. I loved what the thing was, which was technology, computers, and all that good stuff. And then I loved the feeling of running my own business. So fast forward, I go to college for one semester. That's how long I lasted. Badge of honor. And I went to film school, because from starting AppleEasy to going to college, I realized my passion for photography and filmmaking. I knew that I wanted to make that. So I got to film school, and little did I realize I wanted to make videos, not films. I didn't want to sit on set for 2 years and then release one product. I wanted to make things that were pushed out quickly. I wanted to keep making things often. And so I realized that film was not for me, or at least it wasn't at that moment. And so I dropped out, and that is kind of where Praxis became a thing. And it was a really nice transition. And my time at Praxis really kind of filled in all the gaps for, unbeknownst to me, what is now Taylor King Creative, which is the company that I run now. Praxis filled out all the gaps of all of the things that I didn't get from that first business and from my brief time in college. And then my first job was through Praxis. It was at a media agency here in New York. And I lasted 10 months there, learned a whole lot that also contributed to my business now. And here I am.
That's awesome. So many things I want to unpackage there.
Yeah.
First, let's rewind to the college thing. When you dropped out, what was that like? What was that decision process like? Was it something that you got a lot of grief from other people, or everybody was supportive? Like, talk me through that decision.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I would consider myself um, stubborn to a fault,
Yeah.
and I definitely get that from my pops. And I think in the moment of wanting to drop out, I knew that it would work out, like without a shadow of a doubt. Like I knew it would work out, and I didn't know truly that it was going to work out, but I just felt so strongly that college was not for me. It was the environment. It was, I mean, like pretty much everyone in Praxis will tell you, even if they opted out and never went, they did. They have friends in college, and they've are well in tune with what the environment is. It just wasn't for me, and I felt very underwhelmed. And after running the little small business, I think the big thing with that was the relation to the money. That always bothered me at my core because I'm big on value.
Hmm.
Praxis is big on the word value. And to me, it was like, does that number, I paid 15 grand for one semester. And I
Yep.
was like, does that number equal how much education I was getting?
Yeah.
The answer was, in my mind, and I still believe this to the day, no. There are some people that might say yes, but for me, it was no. And so, and I was thinking about how much 15 grand was,
Yeah.
the loan that I had taken out and then I eventually had to pay back, versus how, the amount of, I made a couple grand off that AppleEasy thing in total. I was like, that's crazy, right? It was tough. My parents did not like it at all. Like many parents, they were very concerned, and I had a bunch of heated conversations. Shout out to my dad for having um, the experience and I'll say maturity to have to put a pause on some of those conversations. We waited until the next day and kind of picked it up and talked more.
Yeah.
Um, but it was tough. It was tough. I think it was really great to have. I don't want this to feel like an ad but I do think that Praxis was like kind of that great stepping stone.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say things like it was Praxis that helped, and
Yeah.
I don't want people to see this and be like, hey, it looks like an ad. It's like genuinely, it was the stepping stone that helped make it comfortable enough for my parents, but was also the step that I needed to understand how to go forward. So that was the quote compromise,
Yeah.
but it was the right decision
Yeah.
in the end. So
Yeah. Yeah. And like most parents, like you're taking a step into the unknown down an uncharted course. Maybe they, I don't expect that they probably even knew what Praxis was at the time. And they're like, whoa, 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 this is a big shift. This is not the plan we've talked about. Do you feel like they came around? Like, it sounds like they were a little bit supportive once you had a plan, but do you feel like they came around and saw the value of you betting on yourself? Was it after you got out of Praxis? Was it once you landed your job? Like, what was it that kind of ultimately sold them that you're going to be just fine?
yeah, well, you are going to get a kick out of this. So this is another shout out to my dad for this one. He thought it would be a great idea to try and convince each other of the other decision. So this is very silly, but for us, it was what essentially helped us understand it, which he said, Taylor, you need to convince me why you should stay, and I'm going to try and convince you why you should drop out and go to Praxis.
That's
What that
amazing.
means, now not a lot of parents might be willing to do that. What that means is that we both legitimately needed to put in research
Mhm.
about what were the variables that we're playing with. It's very easy to say, hey, this is my opinion. I'm not budging off this opinion. It's way harder to say, oh, your opinion that I vehemently disagree with, I'm going to actually do research, figure out why you could be right, and then we'll have another conversation, legitimately trying to convince each other. And we're both competitive, so we
Yeah.
legitimately wanted to
Had to
win
beat the other
this little.
person.
Yes, yeah. So in a very silly way, that was what kind of helped it. And then I think after getting the first job and them kind of seeing how I handled in that environment, which was surprisingly well, despite my age and the environment I was in, I think they knew I could do it. They were just concerned about what was my best chance.
Hmm.
Was their thing. They definitely didn't like not believe in me. They were always like, they helped me like buy my first like cheapo $100 camera, you know, like they would figure out a way to help, but they also wanted to be realistic,
Yeah.
which is, you know, every parent's going to want that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as like, you know, the program itself, what was the main benefit to you? Like what do you think was some of the most valuable, or the most valuable part, or some of the most valuable parts of your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I don't mean for this to be a cop out answer, but I think the people were the most valuable thing. The network of people, because something that I've always been really big on is, yeah, everyone's gonna have a different life experience, and to learn from someone else is to learn years and years and years beyond you, that you can then like learn from and absorb. So I would say that's number one. In a close second though is all of the, I'll call it personal branding, not to like beat a dead horse or that word. Personal branding value. It's like, no, but that's what it is. Like Praxis taught me how to turn my name, not necessarily like into like the name of the company, but like turn my name into like a personal brand and say, here's how you maneuver this world that no one has ever taught you how to maneuver. Here are all the things that you need to do to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Silly things like email communication, like how to speak to someone, like when you're getting your first job, like how to interview, like how to talk about yourself, things that are very uncomfortable for someone who's at that age. You know, like it's going to be something that's going to be tough, but Praxis helped me push through those big hurdles so that when I walked into the media agency, I was able to answer all the questions, and I wasn't necessarily, I was nervous, which is good. You want to
Yeah.
be nervous, but I was not scared, which was the difference. That I felt prepared, but I was nervous. A lot of steps in the middle to get there. But yeah, I would say personal branding, how to talk about myself, how to talk about what I bring to the table, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And as far as like that first job, you know, landing the job at a media company, what was that like? You know, how did it go? Good, bad, ugly?
Yeah, I would say it went wildly better than expected. Um, but it was very tough. It was very tough. I mean, I knew what I was getting into. I was told what I was getting into. I mean, in my conversations with Isaac and all of the staff at that time, they were like, "Hey, this is a very different environment than a lot of the other companies we have." I would say there are words thrown around like unforgiving,
Yeah.
which is true for many startups. I don't mean to say that like not your first job is never hard, but this one was particularly a loose cannon in terms of the environment I was putting myself into. I was one of I think the second, third class of participants, somewhere like around there, like earlier on. And so I don't want to say that I was told that there were people betting on me,
Yeah.
but like, but like I was being put in a situation where they would really like a participant to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of, you know, in every class, there are people going into a new field
Yep.
where, you know, we're trying to figure out, you know, like what's going to happen, you know, and what people have found is that Praxis participants kick ass in general, but it was tough. I was always being held to a letter beyond me. I didn't tell anyone my age. I couldn't, or I ended up choosing not to. People found out anyways.
Yeah.
There was a kind of a scandal where someone who was in the company was very popular on LinkedIn, and they made a post about me, and it got like 800,000 likes or something, and like
What?
went sort of viral on LinkedIn. Yeah, I don't know if that's viral, and like I don't know what the market is like, but it
That
was,
seems like a lot.
yeah, it felt like a lot, and everyone at the company saw it. So then it became even harder because I was like some golden child, is
Yeah.
what it felt like. And a lot of Praxis kids are going to feel like this because you're going into a space where a lot of people are underperforming
Yeah.
because they've never had a kid who wants it more than anything to be there. They're just competing against other people who just want a job. To me,
Yeah.
it wasn't a job. It was like my future.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to ramble on that, but it was tough. It was tough, but what it taught me was that I can compete, Not to say it's always competition, but that I can handle it. And it turned me into someone who felt more and more confident by the day, which was cool. I saw myself change in a really good way.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So what was that transition from that job into starting your company and making that decision? Like, hey, I've built the skills. I kind of know what I want to do. I'm ready to go bet on myself, 100%. What was that process like?
It probably happened in the last. So I've really been just trying to mess everyone's life up along this way. I lasted a semester in college.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, I didn't even last a full year at my first job, but it was not because of the job. The job actually offered me a raise beyond what Praxis agreed to. And they wanted to keep me, and they wanted to start a content studio in the agency of 500 people.
Yeah. I
was like a part of. They're like, hey, we want you to stay. We want you to do this new thing. And I still quit. But the reason I quit is because that process happened very fast. I was very quickly finding myself confident in my own abilities as things started to happen on the side while I was at that job. And I think, talking about network, like that, the ability to network that I learned a large part in from Praxis, I applied it immediately when I moved to New York. The general things: to meet everybody, ask a shit ton of questions, and just listen. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's all I'm gonna do. It was like written on my hand, or like on my ceiling, like however I could remember. I was like, I want to do this. So for the time when I was at that job, that's what I was doing outside of that in the creative field. And over time, it got to the point where my network had ballooned to a size where people started to see what I was making in the job.
Yep.
And realizing that I was doing more stuff on the side or cooler stuff to them than I would like meet someone, and I would post it on my Instagram story, and everyone at work would be like, you met so-and-so? Like, it was that kind of, and that's in my head when I was like, okay, there's a shift happening. The moment, I don't even take too much time
no, you're fine.
on this, but the moment when it happened was I took a day off work to go and do a creative piece on the side. And when I was on set for, I think it was a L'Oreal shoot, some hair product or something. And it was memorable because one of my friends who had brought me onto the set for the day said it was like Albert Einstein's apartment or someone famous. Who invented the light bulb? This is a bad show of knowledge here, but
Thomas Edison.
Edison, yeah.
Nikolai Tesla, but no.
Yeah,
no.
Nikolai Tesla, yeah. It was Einstein's or Edison's apartment
yeah.
on the west side. And it was crazy. He had this crazy view. So I'm sitting on this view, checking my phone, and I get an email, and someone's like, how soon can you be in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, how soon do you need me there? And he was like, tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So I called out of work for the rest of the week, and which they did not like. And I was like, oh, I'll just work remote or blah, blah. I just kind of like bullshitted. And I flew out to LA for the NBA All-Star game. And that was like the moment when I was like, okay, this is real. I don't know if you watch basketball, but I met some people. I met
for sure.
a guy named Anthony Davis. Met a guy named John Wall and a bunch of other crazy people. I'm saying it back because I almost don't even believe it happened.
Yeah.
Like it's on my Instagram feed. It exists, but it was so surreal. On that plane flight back, I was like, this is the moment. Like it's built. It's the moment. And for a lot of people, that moment happens in their job, in their first job. It's not a side thing. It is the thing. And so for me, it ended up being something different than my first opportunity. But that was kind of when I knew, and I was like, all right, let's just see what happens.
That's so cool. Such a cool story. And cool that you can point back and attribute it to such a specific moment, which that's a big moment, unforgettable moment. So what would you say now? You're several years out, you're several years post Praxis. You've been doing your own thing for a while. You've got a great business going. How's life? What's your satisfaction level in life?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. It's really amazing. I would say, not to cop out and say it's all good, but it is very good. I would say that satisfaction level is way up there. I mean, I think there's this whole tier list that I saw way back when that I kind of live by, which is like there's a bunch of like tiers. They're like, oh, if you're happy but unsatisfied, or satisfied or unhappy or whatever. Like I feel like I am very happy but unsatisfied.
Yeah.
In terms of saying like I am incredibly happy with my current situation. I've been super blessed with a bunch of clients that support me in my art, and I'm able to make stuff that works and does well and serves that purpose. But I am unsatisfied in the way that I want to do more. You know, I always want to do more. So I've been in my network, I'm always kind of trying to see like who's up next, like what's the next thing that's happening. Like, is it a new social media platform? Is it, you know, a new creator that's becoming big? What can I do? Obviously during these Corona times, it's a little bit difficult to like innovate yourself because
Yeah.
you're just trying to make sure that everything works. You're like, is the machine still working? Okay. But as we kind of roll out of here, there's lots of things I'm really excited for. So super, super happy, but unsatisfied. And I want to see how to do more.
Yeah. It's a fantastic answer. I love it. So last big question is, you know, now that you're several years out, you've had time to reflect on, you know, some of the decisions of the PAX. Was Praxis worth it?
Yeah. I would say for me, 100%. It was and I'll give a couple like blatant answers if that's fine. I don't
Yeah, go
want
for
to
it.
like, I don't want to like say things that might not come across the right way, but it was in a very silly way the stepping stone. There of course is the massive education component, but even if you say just take that away, just in
Yep.
a world where Praxis provides no education, it was an incredible stepping stone to help me validate quitting college, but also help my parents understand that there are real world opportunities. And through the process of talking about Praxis was when they kind of opened their eyes. So that was just like the first week of talking about Praxis. The education is 10x on top of that. The understanding of how to brand yourself, how to nail life, essentially. All of the small things is kind of my takeaway. It's all of the small things that you've never even thought about, the things that people are looking for that you need to show.
Yep.
How to talk about yourself, all of that stuff. It was so worth it. I don't even know where I would be without it, just because of the opportunities it provided. You know, it's a network of saying, oh, you're really about that life of you want to work harder than people, you want to make this life for yourself. It's like, okay, well, then here's Praxis, but you have to be up for it.
Yep.
It was not easy. I'll say that. Like, if you're looking for an easy route, it was not the easiest route. I would say I definitely got a lot of shit from friends early on, being like not understanding, you know? But for me, it was like never, sounds so cliche, but it was like I never like wanted the like easiest thing. I wasn't happy with that. And I knew when I wasn't happy. That was the kicker too, was I knew when I wasn't happy. That's what led to Praxis, was me saying, I'm not happy with this. What is my next move? But yeah, the irony in having a lot of people make fun of that decision, or not like make fun, but like question it early on, was I got a couple of very memorable phone calls from high school friends or even high school acquaintances.
Yep.
One of them was actually someone that I would consider like, not like a bully, but someone that I did not like at all. And I don't think they liked me very much. They called me and were asking for advice after seeing the transition. I don't think it's going to happen to everyone. I hope it doesn't happen to everyone. But it was a moment where I was like, okay, like I'm at least doing something right, to have all of these people go from what are you doing to how do I do what you're doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it was instrumental.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to just wrap it up. Thank you for your time. And I'll wrap it up just by saying, if people want to check out more of your work, what website can I send them to?
Yeah, so the two main things on my website is www.createdbytk, the letters tk.com. And then my Instagram is at TK3, that's TKTHREE. And those are the two places where my work is going to be.
Awesome.
Check me out. Say hello. DM me.
Awesome. Thanks, man.